Hello and welcome, fellow motorsports fans. It's been a brilliant week of racing, and as always, I'm here to tell you all about it. This is the sports car focused episode of this week, so naturally, we are going to be talking about all things Asian Le Mans series and then a couple of news, including the highly anticipated provisional ELMS entry list. Now then, without further ado, let's get started with the Asian Le Mans series. They had their first doubleheader of the week, of the year rather, with two 4-hour races at Sepang. And first of all, recalling two entire 4-hour races now might be a bit of a tall ask, but I'll try to, get all the broad strokes and then maybe try to paint a bit of a general picture of who's doing what and who's doing well according to expectations and who's doing poorly according to expectations. And immediately in race number one, we have to point out that I call them the favorites, I believe, because I had to pick one for the prediction, which you can also check out. My prediction video I made for this series. And this is the number 4 CrowdStrike by APR car with George Kurtz as the driver, and I thought, well, he's one of the very experienced LMP2 bronze drivers and one of the top guys in that particular category, so I thought naturally they were going to do really well, but unfortunately both lacked a bit of pace and were a bit unlucky in race 1 in particular, whereas then their fortunes did turn around massively for race 2, where Kurtz was still maybe not quite what I expected him to be in terms of pace, but at least then he was a solid midfield runner among his bronze peers. And Colin Brown in particular had a massive drive in the second race to take him to the lead and then essentially the win later on when the 99 got taken out of contention by a pit stop decision. This is the other big one, which I think I also put them in win contention. At least it sounds like a very obvious pick if just for Louis Delétraz alone, and it very much held true here, where the man had a fantastic drive in both races. Ahmad Al-Hati is a bit of pretty known quantity, just a very solid bronze driver as well. No front runner, no back marker, like a very similar level to Kurtz actually this event, I'd say. Nikita Mazepin did better than last year, I'd say. He did quite well, obviously not exactly a fan favorite, but you can't take that away from him. He can drive a race car as long as it's not quite as fast as F1 machinery, but Louis Delétraz really was the breakout star, and he also took the car to the win in the first race in super tricky conditions. The race actually had to be red flagged before the actual conclusion, just for heavy rain in the final hour. Fantastic drive by him. He almost actually brought the car back into win contention in race 2. He did at the very least steal second place from I think it was Julian. Yeah, it was Julian Andlauer. He took P2 from in the final corner, I want to say, very much on the final lap of the race. So fantastic drive all around. Please keep an eye out for Louis Delétraz next year in IMSA if you aren't doing so already. This guy is insane. Next talking point from LMP2 probably was the Proton debut, and I'll just have to say, very good job. The team was right there, right on it immediately in win or at least podium contention from the very first lap, basically. In terms of their bronze drivers, Roda was very, very good, one of the best bronzes in the field. On the other hand, and I even need to see this is already where it's not a good sign if I have to look who the other bronze is. Yeah, exactly, Hyatt. Hyatt was actually fine as well, considering it's his debut as far as I know in the category. Obviously a bit of a prep run for his IMSA campaign, and he was alright. Not great, again, probably similar to Kurtz. I put him in that midfield category. But truth be told, a lot of cars were in that sort of bracket. There was Michael Dynan, who was better, but then again, he's technically supposed to be the silver, if I'm not mistaken, because Sally Jolic is still technically the bronze for this event, although they treated them the other way around, if that makes sense. And then there was John Falk, had a fantastic first race as a bronze, probably looked like the best one out there, and then in the second race, he was also quick but quite mistake prone, and thereby dropped the car back down. But then again, it didn't never really mattered because the 30 has to deal with Carl Bennett in the car, and that's just never going to go anywhere. Although I think it's fair to say he did slightly better than I expected in race 1 by just not dropping like a rock as soon as he got into the car. But yeah, that's about the only positive thing I can really say. There's, yeah, as we all know, that guy should not be in an LMP2 car in a competitive grid. The other sort of scenario to monitor was Alex Garcia and Ian Loggy both having their LMP2 debut in the 24 Nielsen car, which I thought could maybe be like a dark horse for the championship. Now that bit is already over, I'd say. They had a horrendous weekend, definitely one of those to forget. My man Ferdi Habsburg didn't even get a chance to do anything. The car was out of contention immediately in both races. Ian Loggy getting caught up in things. Alex Garcia for his LMP2 debut. I can't say much about him. I've heard his lap times apparently weren't great. But honestly, at least for me, it would feel very unfair to sort of rate him based on this weekend, because similar to Ferdi Habsburg, he also, when he got in the car, the race was already done both times. So really, I don't feel like blaming him, if that makes sense. We can wait and see. I still think it's very much a good thing he's in LMP2. He just shouldn't be in a hypercar. The other car that we need to point out as a future series contender for sure is the AF Corsa 83 entry, the well-known combo of Perodo as one of the class bronze drivers, and then Alessio Rovera and Matteo Vaxivière with him, and also one of those eternal dangerous cars. And a brilliant late race battle that Vaxivière had with Delétraz in race 1 was sort of one of the highlights of the weekend for me, together with like a midfield scrap between, who was it? Binder against, I believe, Rovera, and the third one I'm not entirely sure. I think it might have been Tom Dillman, but I might be wrong there. There was a very intense midfield battle. The second race was sort of decided in the middle stint, it felt like, when all the second drivers were in. And that produced some fantastic scenes. I'm afraid you'll have to go watch that for yourself if you want to witness it. Okay. I should have actually probably checked this first. Apparently there are no standings for the GT cars, but that's no problem. We can just use these. That's perfectly fine for me. And I'm not going to talk about LMP3. Honestly, the only thing we need to say about LMP3 is Daniel Frost got in the car, had a fantastic race 1, got the car from P3 to P1 in one stint, and I actually secured the win for the number 17, and that's literally the only noteworthy thing that happened in both races for that class. The local 65 team was about as embarrassing as expected, and that's really all I can say about it. I'm sorry if, de facto 4-car class just doesn't appeal to me at all, and then even more so considering the drivers actually racing in said class. Anyway, the GT Championship, this one very interesting, and it threw up a proper excitement, which is the number 42, and I forgot his first name already. Let us quickly check, just for completion's sake. Varutti is called, number 42, where is it? Alban Varutti, there we go. A fantastic drive for a gentleman in both races, honestly blowing me away. He's obviously the reigning GT4 European M champion, so it was clear that there's some quality there, but this was going well above and beyond expectations. The first race he stayed out by himself for the entire first half of the race, so he did 2 hours. I think he did the same in the second race as well. So he did quite a bit more than his mandatory drive time, and he gapped the field by, I want to say, about a minute in race 1. Unfortunately, safety cars eventually took that lead away from him again, but still, that was mega. In the second race, it would have looked very similar, but Kay Cozzolino in the 82 as the gold driver among bronzes did catch and pass him. The AF Corsa crew tried that in both races, by the way. Unfortunately, that was heartbreaking in race 1. Cozzolino also fantastic charge through the bronze pack, and then I think they only hit P2, maybe P3. We were high up already, looking to charge to the lead, and then the car just died with some sort of mechanical problem. That was really a bit frustrating to watch. So yeah, Alban Varutti. If there's any name you remember from these two races, it's this one. I think it was Graham Goodwin on the broadcast who put it rightly by saying that he'll have a lot of calls from teams after this weekend. For sure, that just made him look like one of the most desirable pros out, M drivers out there, period. So that was fantastic to see. I will throw in the caveat of the Audis just looked very, very good in general. And the first race after the M drivers got out, because the Audis were across the board a bit weaker on the M driver side of things. Once the M drivers got out and the safety car bunched the field back together again, it was the Audis running away with it in race 1 for an Audi 1-2-3. So I'm just saying, the car certainly was there as well. It's not just a fantastic drive, but still, you can't gap the entire the entire opposition by like a minute, and it then just be the car's fault, So that's very unlikely. I do want to throw this out there. Truly, truly fantastic drive. I think the other noteworthy one we want to throw in there is obviously the 91. So the car that's, I believe, with its entire lineup, it's already confirmed as one of the 2 WEC Porsches for next year, with Alex Malikan as the gentleman driver, and they were also in win contention in both cars, in both races. Bit of a messy race, some penalties that maybe they shouldn't have had and all that sort of stuff, but across the board they were really good. And then they were the ones that managed to take the win in the second race, because Varutti eventually got a penalty for some sort of procedural error. Quite a few teams had problems with that. It was a proper penalty fest across the weekend, really. And then those 3 just more or less showed their class. Klaus Bachler as well is like one of those just rock solid people. He just won't make a mistake. If you give him the car in the lead, he'll probably just run away with it, and he did. So 2 of my I think both were ones that I know, definitely not the 42. I didn't put out as a favorite. What am I even saying? Although it does have 2 fantastic drivers on its side. Really, no major underperformances, I don't think. Just a few sad ones, like for example Bastian Boos. I never got to see the last year's Porsche Junior, obviously now stepping up to GT3 by the looks of it, and this was his debut. Unfortunately, the car was never on screen because they were just backmarking for a living. I'm just scrolling through here to see if I forgot any big drives. Just one I want to talk about. We can talk about. They even got a podium for it. This one definitely deserves to be mentioned, which is Ollie Milroy, everybody's favorite racing car driver to follow on Twitter, I believe. For me, anyway, it's by far the most worthwhile one. He had a fantastic drive in the second race to charge the car all the way to the podium after the safety car. That was great. Do want to point this out. And then, for me, one of the really interesting people, last year's BMW M2 Cup champion, Maxime Osten. He was driving the number 56 Project 1 BMW, and they were nowhere to be found in race 1 because they presumably started their bronze driver, and he just wasn't that good. Car never really managed to do anything significant. But in the second race, this guy got to show that he can drive cars. He's done now BMW M2 Cup, then he's done BMW GT4. Now he's stepping up to GT3, and he took to it like a duck to water. Rapid pace, granted, he went up largely against the bronze drivers, obviously, but then again, he's a very young silver, so I feel like, first of all, that's somewhat fair. And he charged through the field twice. He got the car from the back to the lead. Then he got penalised for starting procedure error, got dropped back down to, I want to say, around P15-ish, and then got back up to P6, 5-ish again in the same stint. So that was really an impressive drive. I'm really glad the team took the decision to start him and then give Galal the time after and to run the bronze last. And at least in my mind, it is to actually give Austin some racing experience. I don't know, that's the thought process behind it at all, obviously, but for me anyway, it did make a lot of sense. And then the only other one I feel like we can throw in is the 88 888 AMG, the Australian entry. I feel like a bit of a fan favorite. It is for me anyway. And Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim had a weird one in race 1 where he was clearly quick. He was clearly also one of the quicker bronze drivers, but he decided to just drive like, I want to say, people doing like D-class iRacing races, if that makes sense. So he was just sticking his nose in everywhere, never mind if it belonged or didn't, and got 2 penalties for it by spinning 2 of their competitors. That was a bit fun to see, but they had a little Cool redemption arc in the second race. Great drives from both Luca Stolz and Brock Feeney to get the car. Unfortunately, we can't check the results here, but I want to say it was like around P5 is where I think they finished. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, these were all the noteworthy entries from the GT3 field. Overall, I feel like a brilliant opening weekend for the series, and I'm just a bit sad that we have to wait like two and a bit months for it to continue. But at least, definitely the LMP2 Championship looks very spicy. The 99 is there, the 4 is there, the 83 is there, and then both the Protons and the number 3, and technically even the 30 to a lesser extent, although I still don't see them doing anything. But like the top 6 on this thing here all look to be win contenders, certainly for individual races and potentially for seasons, although the 55 definitely less so. The top 5 I'd be confident in that they can all still do significant damage. Okay, well then, let's get on to the news section, which is it's not super long this time around, but there's still some things we want to cover. First of all, Albert Costa going over to America for next year, driving in IMSA with Conquest Racing. I mainly just throw this out there because it was a bit. He's one of those weird people I always feels a bit left out. He's not got a factory contract, even though he probably should. He's one of those drivers where he's just stuck a tier below where he would probably want to be. So this is a step in the right direction, I think, moving away from half-season campaigns and that sort of stuff to a proper full-season drive in a proper competitive thing again. And hopefully, maybe eventually this could open the door to a Ferrari factory ride for the guy. I think he deserves it. His second half of the year in particular was incredible. Then staying on the Ferrari topic, this is just a bit of a bizarre one. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Lilo Wadoux, obviously the first ever female factory driver for, I think, any team, definitely for Ferrari. And a solid Ferrari silver driver, I'd say. She's done quite well over in WEC, really well actually. Not so impressive with her one-off appearances elsewhere. I was often looking out for her and then never, nothing ever really happened. Although she was often also just stuck in terrible lineups and never really got to shine. But then we have to say now they are sending her to Super Formula, to Super GT, obviously, to drive in GT300, which is essentially GT3 machinery and some other bits. So it's probably going to be more of the same, but she's going to be very reliant on her gentleman driver and all that sort of stuff. Okay. Yeah, so it is a bit. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the move. I feel like she's just getting put to the sidelines with this. Obviously, if this is just one of many campaigns or one of maybe at least like a dual program, then yeah, this is great. Super GT is a pretty competitive series. I personally don't like the GT300 portion of it because it's super difficult to follow. Like the entire broadcast is not designed about making you understand the fucking category, and also there's so many GT3 series, let's be real, this just isn't one of the top ones. Nonetheless, it would probably be a good learning experience for her. I just really hope she still gets to do like a GT World Challenge endurance program on the side or something. And then, the question of the Porsche Junior has been solved. We talked about it last week, and I have to say I did not fully see the winner coming. Obviously, with hindsight, pretty good pick, Alessandro Giretti. And the only reason I'm surprised is because I thought, okay, there's Robert Tahan, who's like really young and exciting. Obviously, he doesn't have to get it this year. I think he can just go back to the shootout next year and win it. Maybe that was the thing. Maybe he's not mentally there yet. Obviously they are looking for someone to integrate into the factory lineup, not just for any quick kids. So they need to be PR ready and everything as well. Maybe that was a factor. I don't know. Giretti, obviously a quick Porsche guy, and I'm looking forward to see what he can do next year, but not my... I probably wouldn't have picked him, obviously, without having the data that Porsche gathered at the shootout designed to actually figure out who's the fastest guy. So I'm sure they know better than me. I just wanted to explain why I'm slightly surprised. I would have seen him or maybe Callum Edge above that probably. But nonetheless, I'm just glad there is a new Porsche Junior, and yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do next year. And now for the big one, the provisional ELMS entry list published just an hour and a bit ago. And so obviously I won't be doing a full prediction here. First of all, it's not even completed just yet. Second of all, this season is like half a year away. And yeah, I'm going to do a proper prediction video once we get closer to it, once we actually have complete information and all that sort of stuff. But for now, I just want to pick out a few interesting points, just to see if there's any bizarre things going on. First and foremost, the first thing I had to discuss was there's no more Fassbender. Obviously, it's been speculated, but it's confirmed now. No more Michael Fassbender in a Proton Porsche or on the grid at all, which is probably a bit of a bummer for a lot of fans watching. Then one that did stand out to me, at least, I don't know if I've just missed some sort of announcement, but Claudio Schiavone driving a Porsche in for Proton instead of switching to Lambo and staying with Iron Lynx. That just was a bit surprising for me. In general, though, bit of a nothing move. Schiavone, if you've seen him race, he's one of those really like just horribly slow drivers. So I don't really care too much where he drives as long as he's not dragging down any top tier pros with him, but I'm sure he will. Other than that, really not too many standout things in the GT3 category for me. The one I maybe want to point out is Valentin Hasselclaw, VHC as we lovingly call him, stepping up to ELMS from a full-time Le Mans Cup season last year, so that's quite good. Obviously, one of the up-and-coming Aston Martin factory drivers, and probably going to play a big role next year, considering Aston Martin will push for a lot more factory efforts across GT3. So looking forward to where he's going to show up. I certainly predict him not to just stay in ELMS. LMP3, as I have said already, just don't care too much. Even in this I don't care too much because the grid is bad. In this I don't care too much because I know I won't be able to actually follow it during the broadcast, and also it's been very difficult in the last years, obviously. So it's the LMP3 drivers I'm most familiar with is those from the Le Mans Cup, not those from ELMS, if that makes sense, right? Because they just don't really care for that category during the broadcast. So naturally, the guys I'm most excited about to at least roughly see how they do is Julien Gerby stepping up with Team Virage from the Le Mans Cup, obviously the Le Mans Cup winner. Unfortunately, it very much looks like he is not bringing his fantastic teammate with him, but maybe he'll rock up somewhere else. Yeah, really, other than that, not too many interesting nominations for this category. Nothing, just nothing really stands out for me there. In LMP2, the main thing I noticed is that with the likes of Sally Olic promoted to silver, the LMP2 Pro-Am category looks a tiny bit bad. Not obviously, it'll look fine once we actually get to it, don't get me wrong, but like the top half of those drivers, Van Rompuy, Rob Hodes, if you call him that, and then they do this, I can't pronounce his name, and Daniel Schneider, or Snyder. Yeah, I don't know. Neither of them get me excited at all, if that makes sense. The bottom half's quite good. John Falk, just mentioned, fantastic drive this time around. Francois Perrodo obviously doesn't need an introduction, and both Salas and Roda are also very competent guys in those sorts of cars. So I am looking forward to them, but I'm still a little afraid that the category overall looks a little weaker than last time out. But then again, on the other hand, we just have a much bigger field overall, so fair enough, I suppose. The only other noteworthy one in the Pro-Am category to me is Colin Noble, stepping up also from the Le Mans Cup. He's been one of the better silvers in the Le Mans Cup. Had a few really impressive drives, I want to say. So yeah, I look forward to see what he can do for sure. And then in the Pro category, obviously we've talked about a few of those lineups already in the past. There's two big stories, maybe three if we want to include Carl Bennett getting a full season drive. I don't know why that's a thing, he shouldn't, but here we are. Robert Kubica doing a full season program. I don't know if that's been a rumor that I just missed, but for me that was a bit of a big story. I'm very much looking forward to it. Glad that he'll be full time in both WEC and ELMS. I think nobody will ever complain about watching Kubica race, so that should work out for all of us. And then, okay, so first of all, my personal favorite lineup on the grid, by it's no competition, is the Cool Racing 37 entry with Lorenzo Flusha coming over straight from Frecker. Obviously, remains to be seen how good he is, but I think he's a solid driver. At the very least, not particularly mistake prone or anything, so he should be just fine in endurance. Malte Jakobsen doesn't need an introduction, up and coming superstar. And then Rita Momiata, reigning Super Formula champion, and all that sort of stuff. So one of these super exciting prospects now moving to Europe next year with both F2 and this program, and I'll be rooting for them in both. This is just a fantastic lineup full of young, up-and-coming, exciting drivers. So I don't think there's anything to hate about this, really. And then maybe I think that's the last one we need to bring up, is Clement Novalak also stepping up from Formula 2, making the switch to endurance racing. I think it makes sense. Obviously, inter-Europa competition, it's not the strongest lineup ever. I don't expect them to do much. Then again, Novalak, not the strongest driver ever. I think it's fair. Sounds like a good fit. Maybe they can punch above their weight a little, but I just feel like it very much is the right step for his career to call it a day over in the single-seater world. At the very least, Formula 1 just wasn't going to happen. That was very clear. And then last but not least, and I would have almost missed it like 3 times now. Where is he? That's why I miss it. Yes. Oh yeah, obviously. In the Richard Mille team, it's a Pro-Am entry. I sort of, for whatever reason, my brain did not quite get that message when I read the announcement, which is also long-standing single-seater guy, Gregory Saucy stepping up to ELMS, making the switch from Formula 3 after it was a bit of a make-or-break season for him. He looked to be going the right direction early on in the year. He had a good start to the season, looked to throw himself into that championship fight, but at the end of the day could not sustain it at all. Finished very anonymously mediocre down in the midfield. Big part of this was the car, make no mistakes there. The art was just horrible all year, or horrible is maybe too much, but not impressing all year long. But still, a tiny bit sad his story had to end the way it did now in single-seaters. But again, it's just one of those people, it's probably the best career choice, isn't it? You're not going to make it to F1, that much was also just pretty clear. And why then spend a fortune on racing an F2 if you can start making yourself a name in a more relevant category to your own future? So I think he made the right choice there. And yeah, I just think we're all going to be rooting for him if we've seen him over in F3, because I think he's also one of those guys who's just nothing really bad you can say about him, you know? Okay, yeah, I think this sums it up quite nicely. I'm looking forward to the season. I'm looking forward to seeing more of these entry list slots filled in as well. In particular, some of the GT pros, to see how strong that grid is going to end up. But yeah, until then, I just hope that you will find something else to entertain you on my channel. And I'll see you all next week for the 12 hours of Abu Dhabi review. So take care, subscribe if you don't want to miss it, and bye-bye.